when he was getting ready to start kindergarten, I said, I wanted to reach out to his school to make sure they were just aware of his condition and like what the potential risks were, that they had staff that were trained in CPR and that they had an AED and all those things, and was connected to the Children's Hospital and to Project Atom, which had just launched. They had gotten some grant funding, but was basically all being run by volunteers. And so I connected with them and said, hey, do you have some resources I can provide my son's school so they're better prepared? And then it turned out they were hiring somebody. So that's sort of how I fell into it. So it's definitely a personal kind of mission for me, as well as just a lot of professional interest. I didn't major in medicine at all, pre-med or anything. As an undergrad student, I was a political science major. I went to UC Davis. Thought I'd end up in law and then sort of tumbled into some other things. So this is a way for me to be involved in healthcare without actually having become a healthcare professional. This is one of those positions that's sort of a peripheral supportive role. Anyone can teach CPR, anyone can learn CPR. You don't have to be like highly trained or anything like that. So I am a American Red Cross CPR instructor, and I teach classes in schools. I do, today I taught actually at my kids' school, I taught the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders how to do hands-only CPR in their school. And then I also work with teachers and other like school administrators and that kind of thing. But the goal for Project Atom really is that when we go into a school, we want to see a really comprehensive program. So, it's great to have an AED on your school site, but you also need to make sure you have trained staff. You need to make sure so that people are comfortable using it. You need to make sure that you have trained staff. You need to make sure you have like a written and like creative and thought out medical emergency response plan, so that if something were to happen, not only would they know that their AED is accessible, ready to be used, that they've got trained staff, but that they have a plan in place, especially in an elementary school setting. So if somebody were to go down, what do you do with all those kids that are running around, right? What's the plan for that? So I go into schools, help them create that plan, make sure they have staff that are trained just basically in hands-only CPR. And then we practice and run through it so that they're prepared. Do you guys have questions?
I have one question. Did the political science background like help you start this club? Like, what was the process of that? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. So I would say what helped is the amount of writing I had to do in school, for sure, right? I mean, when you study political science, it's all writing. It's papers and proposals and all kinds of things. So from that standpoint, it certainly helped me, because when I'm in contact with schools, most of that is by email, a lot of like outreach and that kind of thing. So you have to know how to put a lot of information and extrapolate and put it together into something that's concise and easily digestible for somebody who may not have any awareness around emergency planning or what CPR is or why it's important. Some statistics for you guys, since you're interested in this stuff, is that 1 in 300 kids actually has a heart condition that puts them at risk for sudden cardiac arrest. So my son's got hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. That's one of the biggies. We know about it because he had some other testing done first, but a lot of kids who have it, their first symptom is sudden death on the field, because it's basically the left ventricle of the heart enlarges and it makes it hard for the blood to pump. And so they may not have any symptoms until something actually happens. So that's why we go in and prepare these schools, because this is something that happens. We've got like structural problems with the heart. You can have electrical problems with the heart. There's lots of things that can impact you. And then when I go into schools, it's not just the kids we're looking at protecting. On school campuses, you've got about a third of the community is on a school campus at any given time, like if you're in a city, between teachers and staff and parents and community members. So you have to think about all those people that need protection as well.
Yeah, I love this. I love it. Like I love the strive that you have to like um work with this, and we'd be happy to help in any way possible.
That's wonderful.
So
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities. One of the things that we ran recently was our heart screening. I know I had sent that to you guys. So that's a free youth heart screening. We partnered with a group out of the Bay Area to do that, and that's for anyone aged 12 to 25. And you come in and you get an EKG, you get potentially get an echo done, but a family history and all of that. And it's for young people. And we actually have a lot of teenagers that come and volunteer to teach CPR as at one of our stations. So if that's something you're interested in doing, I can definitely let you guys know about the next one. You can come in and teach hands-only CPR to the groups that come through.
yeah, I think that'd be great. Also, you mentioned like if our situation were to happen, just like the surrounding children and all that sort of thing in a school setting. So if apparent heart condition or heart attack were to happen, what would be the best course of action, just like as teens in a group, to sort of take?
Are you talking about like in a school setting, if an adult were to have a situation and then there's kids around? Or do you mean like at home, like if something were to happen, like
Well,
with a
just
family?
any sort of a situation in which there are no like professionals around.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So one of the things we do is teach. So today when I taught in the school is teaching hands-only CPR. So you teach them the two most important things I think to teach, if you're ever working with kids, is you teach that it's absolutely good and important and okay to call 911, because I think when we're young, it's sort of like drilled into us, don't call 911 on accident, right? Like don't call 911. And so people are kind of nervous about doing that, about making that call. So the first thing I try to do is really push home that if you're ever in a situation where somebody is non-responsive and you don't know what to do, you call 911. It's the first thing you do before anything else. If you ever feel unsure. And so I drive that home. The second piece with kids is just teaching them that you look for regular breathing, like if they're unresponsive, but they have normal, regular rhythmic breathing, that could mean that they're just passed out. And at which point you don't need to do compressions, because if someone's breathing normally, that means their heart is beating normally. If they're not breathing, that means their heart, if it hasn't stopped, it will stop. And so that point, that's when you do chest compressions. So getting 911 on the phone and when to give chest compressions. Those are the two like most important things I try to drive home with kids. And by calling 911, I told them, when you're in this class and you're learning all these things today, if you walk out and you forget everything, but what you remember is, I don't feel comfortable and I don't know what to do in this situation, so I'm going to call 911. That 911 operator will walk them through everything they forgot and what to do. They'll advise them how to do chest compressions, to get an AED, all the things that they need to know. And that you never send someone to call 911. You do it, if you can, from a cell phone or from a landline right where you are, so that you're in direct contact with EMS. Those are both like the most important things.
I missed early. What was the ages for the heart screening?
Sure. So it's 12 to 25. And it's kind of flexible. The reason that we picked 12 is because a lot of these heart issues don't surface until you hit puberty. And so you may not have symptoms or like show physical signs necessarily until puberty. So 12 to 25 is the age range. So
Okay.
the way that,
Thank
yeah,
you. Yeah.
sure. The way that works is this group out of the Bay Area, the Kyle J. Taylor Foundation, which I included there on the flyer I think I sent you. They're an organization that was started because the woman's son, when he was 18, died of sudden cardiac arrest out of nowhere. He was a ex-soccer player. So he was an athlete his whole life. He had 1 million sports physicals. He did all of it and never had a symptom and just died one day. And so as a result of that, she'd never heard of cardiac arrest in kids. She started the foundation. And then we have like a mutual friend who connected us, and she said, would you want to do something in Sacramento? I said, this could be perfect, because I work for the Heart Center. I have access to, all these medical professionals who would want to volunteer their time. And you have all the equipment, you have all the infrastructure. And so it's really like a great pairing. So she comes up, brings all of her equipment. We register all the volunteers ahead of time. And we make sure it's fully staffed. But basically the way it works is you come in, you get checked in at registration, you go, there's a vitals and history, family history station where they'll review your family history with you, look for any like red flags, if there's sudden death in the family, that kind of thing, and take your blood pressure, take height, weight. Then you go and you get an EKG. If you're not familiar, an EKG is basically a test that looks at the electrical activity in your heart. And it's really quick. They just put these little electrodes on your chest and record the electrical activity, and that's it. And then the doctors review it. There's a doctor station. They review it. If they see anything, either from your family history side, high blood pressure, anything weird on the EKG, they consult with you and they might send you for an echo. And then what an echo does is it actually takes pictures of the heart. So you've got the EKG, which looks at the electrical activity. And then you've got the echo that looks at the physical structure of the heart. So between those two things compared with family history, they can get a really comprehensive look. And they're actually able to diagnose a lot of the time right there on the spot. So we had a number of kids with heart conditions we actually caught 5 out of the, I think it was 289 kids we screened. There were 2 siblings with a genetic condition called, I always forget, but it's it's Wolff-Parkinson's White disease, and it's an electrical issue that happens with the heart. So we got siblings with that. There was a young lady with a bicuspid aortic valve, which is a structural problem, and then a few other abnormalities. So overall, it's a very effective way of catching things if you can do it in a comprehensive way. And I think it was definitely successful. We plan on doing another one probably in October. Just trying to nail down a place. That's the next step.
Okay, so I'm just gonna open the floor to questions. So if you guys want to raise your hand, we'll just go from there.
Can we even do that? Like, I'm not sure if that's a
Yeah,
thing you can do.
Yeah, you can go to reactions, and then there's a raise hand bar.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I'd love to hear like from you guys what it is you want to do, like maybe some ideas about, what your plan is with this club, where you want to go with it.
Yeah, sure. So we want to like throw on fundraisers. We were thinking of like bake sales or like boba fundraisers, anything that can like get us money to like donate to medical research. Like we could donate to Project Adam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we just want to help in any way possible.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, one of the things we've been tossing around, and I actually have a meeting, I know Oakmont High School in Roseville has a medical program, I think similar kind of with what you guys are doing. And I have a meeting with them next week. One of the things we're sort of tossing around about doing is creating a junior board for Project Adam. And the idea would be kids from different schools would come together to participate on the board and come up with a fundraiser of some kind to help raise money to fund our heart screenings. Because one of the things is Jennifer's coming up, the gal from the foundation, she comes up from San Jose. So she has to rent a U-Haul, gas, her food, and she has to rent an Airbnb while she's here for her and her volunteers that she brings up. So there's expense, and then we provide lunch and breakfast and all these other things for our volunteers. So no one's being paid, it's all volunteer, but we have expenses. And so trying to navigate that's been tricky. And so I thought I've sort of been tossing this around with my supervisor and stuff at the Heart Center that maybe we would come up with something like that. There's another group, and you could find out about this. I can't remember the name. but there's a group in Indiana or something that has, they do heart screenings, and they do them on a much bigger scale than what we're talking about. They do them regularly with the schools out there, and they have a junior board, and the junior board holds a 5K every year. And they use the money, and then they raise the money, and that helps fund the screenings. So they do a 5K with their community, like with the high schools or whatever, as a fundraiser. So if that's something you guys are interested in maybe in participating in, we could talk about that.